Lead Squared is a cutting-edge CRM platform for enrollment management. With Lead Squared, you will deliver a seamless student experience, streamline admissions processes, lower costs, and increase retention. Schedule a demo at leadsquared.com. Welcome back, everybody. It's your time to EdUp on the EdUp Experience podcast, where we make education your business. Dr. Joe Salustio here with you again. I'm very excited about today. Always when I can have a first-time guest co-host and a first-time guest, it makes for an absolute train wreck of a situation, which we love here at the EdUp Experience. So I'm looking forward to today. And I don't say this about my guest or my guest co-host, but it makes me stay on my toes because I got to make sure that everything goes good here. And I can't just sit back and take a day off because the co-host could be horrible. The guest could be horrible. No, they're both great. Never mind. I'll stop messing around. They're amazing guys. And I do want to remind everybody, as this episode airs, you will have seen that along with me, my co-author, Kate Colbert. Boy, I'm so tongue-tied today. This is not working out good so far. Kate Colbert and I are writing a book called Commencement, the beginning of a new era in higher education, seen through the eyes of 100-plus college and university presidents. And we have our big book launch cover reveal that has happened as you see this. Please check it out. You can go to commencementthebook.com and see what we have going on. We think it's going to be a really awesome book for the higher ed community. This is me shamelessly plugging my work, but this is also my podcast, or at least 50% of it is, along with Elvin, so I guess I could do that. But I'll stop now and save you this torture, and instead bring in my guest co-host today. He asked to be introduced as the overlord of the world. Ladies and gentlemen, Jason Paff. He's Vice President at Red Ventures. What's going on, Jason?
Joe, how are you, man? Thanks for that introduction. You know, I asked my wife and kids for that introduction every single morning, and for the last 20 years, they have failed on it. So it was nice that you came through.
I'm glad I could get it right for you, Jason.
I appreciate that, man. Thank you. And hey, congrats on the book, man. That's cool.
Hey, man, thanks. You know, it's a journey. Let's just say that. I'm pretty excited about it, but more excited to have you here today.
Well, thank you very much. I'm excited to be here, coming out of the holidays, and I'm on the East Coast, so we're thawing. We had a bit of snow, you may have heard. So
I'm from Syracuse originally, so I've been familiar with snow.
So it's like nothing to you, like you know, unless the snow is the height of a small child, it's not an issue for you. So
yeah, I do have a couple of pictures as a small kid with my arms up in the air, and the snow pile's larger than I was.
Yeah, Syracuse is a different deal. We had about 6 inches, and it was literally the end of the world in the DC area.
Okay, well, you know what? That can happen. Are you excited to be here today, Jason, co-hosting with me?
I am very excited. We've got a great guest. It's an honor to be here, man. So let's get it started.
Well, speaking of, thank you for the transition, because I want to bring our guest in right now. He is awesome. And here he is, ladies and gentlemen. And he did ask for this introduction here. No, he didn't really ask for it. I'm giving it to him. Ladies and gentlemen, Charlie Parker. He's Vice President of Marketing and Enrollment Operations at ESI. Charlie, what is happening?
It's going great, man. Hey, Jason and Joe. Appreciate being here. I wish I had the Overlord entrance, but I did stand up and clap for myself, so feel pretty good about it.
Well, I stood up and clapped for you too. And,
that's right.
And Jason, I gave him the bomb drop, but he wanted this. That goes with the Overlord thing more than the bomb drop does. But you know, we're working on it. And he's a first timer here, so I'll get the monster. It'll be the monster laugh for him next time when I introduce him.
Yeah.
Well, Charlie, talk to us about ESI. Give us the overview. What do you do as Vice President of Marketing and Enrollment? I mean, other than the obvious, talk about your oversight, talk about ESI, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, man. So ESI Inc. is kind of our umbrella company name. It stands for nothing, really. It's just ESI. It's like I say, it's an umbrella. We have 3 different brands: Aviation Institute of Maintenance, got 14 schools across the U.S. We have Centura College, which is concentrated most in the Virginia area. And then we have a school called Tidewater Tech, which is a standalone operation that is mainly trade driven. The aviation side obviously is on the mechanics side. Centura College does a little allied health, a little trade, and then Tidewater is strictly on that trade side: automotive, HVAC, carpentry, you name it. We're putting them out there in the career field.
So how many total campuses between the three entities in how many states, just off the top of your head?
Yeah, we have 20 schools, surrounds about 15 states. We actually just opened one this year in Chicago that we're really happy about. That is one of our AIM institutions. It's just a huge operation, great maintenance area, huge hangar, and we're very excited about it.
So let's talk about, first of all, I want to recognize that hard work of oversight of multiple campuses in multiple states. I worked for an institution that had 42 locations at one time across, 19 states. It's so hard sometimes to manage all of that by state with the different state regulations and the recruiting rules. And it is a lot. 20 campuses is a lot. And so it's a huge oversight, Charlie. Well done, my friend, keeping it all together. How do you keep it all together? How do you make sure that each entity is, without going crazy, that is, how do you make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do and that you feel comfortable with the results?
Yeah, man. I mean, I moved to sugar-free Red Bull, so that's helping.
That's a good start.
Keeping the sugar out, right? It's interesting. The 14 campuses spread out is not as hard as our centers. Our centers it's in a highly dense area, surrounded by the 5 schools between, if you're familiar with the Hampton Roads, we got 3 schools there, and then we cover Richmond and the Peninsula. So those are really the challenges with our program mix, how they overlap, making sure the inquiries get distributed to the right campuses. So that's the one that actually keeps me up at night, or we're always keeping our finger on it to make sure that we're doing everything we can to drive the right inquiries to the right schools and the right customers coming out the doors. So that one is more of a challenge than the AIMS. AIMS, I'll be honest with you, and that's our acronym we use, AIM. It's not too much of a challenge there. I mean, we did have an umbrella marketing approach, and we probably November last year, we sifted it down to more zoning. So we kind of did some good wrap zones around each geography, and it's really helped target better. That old adage, closer to the door, the closer to the outcome. And so we really embrace that well. We've got a great agency that we work with, MDT Marketing, who's just been a killer partner and has really helped us a lot, targeting the right persona, the right mix. We're not spending frivolous. In fact, this year, we underspent by almost $2 million and still had top line revenue increase. So we had a really good year this year on really doing the things that we needed to do, especially with our partner, MDT.
Well, you know what? I know MDT quite well. In fact, we're a huge supporter of the EdUp Experience podcast. Mitch Tallenfeld and the crew over at MDT, really personable, great crew, produce great results. And it's good to have a great partner behind you, because the work of enrollment and marketing is hard. Before I pass it to you, Jason, I just want to ask you, Charlie, how you're faring. And the reason I ask this is obviously the obvious, is coronavirus, right? But then you look at the bell curve that's existed, coronavirus, disrupt. And then now everybody needs to skill. Everybody needs upskill and reskill. And so trade colleges, vocational schools, and so on are maybe seeing a little bit of a resurgence. What's happening? What kind of trends are you seeing there?
Yeah, man. I mean, I hate to say it, I'm a pretty simple guy. I mean, I don't have overlord in my title, so I'm really a simple guy. And we didn't change our thing. Even in early 2020, we stepped to our guns. I always say to people, and a lot of our colleagues do here too, is, the minute you can train an airline mechanic online is the minute I'll probably stop flying. So we are in-person type institution. And in 2020, it really didn't affect us. We stepped to our guns. We did online when we needed to. And we really had some good growth. We had about 4 or 5% growth on our AIM side. We had 9% growth on our Centura side.
Amazing.
And 10, 11% growth on our trade side. Yeah. So we really thrived in the market. And I can't say enough. It was a lot of people just putting their eyes on the right things. I have a picture in my office, and it reminds me all the time. And the word is remind, and it says reminder, focus on what matters. And we've just spent every day just focus on making sure the people are doing what they need to do, and they're getting what they need to do to be successful, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Jason, I'll kick it over to you, my friend.
Yeah, appreciate the thoughts on the marketing. And that's an area, I hear pretty often, cost of acquisition, cost of just reaching students at the right place at the right time, generating that demand is increasingly challenging for institutions. Competition's up, a lot of noise in various channels. Where are you guys having success reaching students, keeping costs in line, and ultimately enrolling them in your institution? Are there some marketing channels that are working better, tactics that are working better? things you guys hit on through the
Yeah.
pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, digital is always good for us. We've moved away from paper lead quite a bit. Used to be probably 30 or 40% of our mix, and we dropped to about 10 or 15% of our mix. We really have done a great deal of effort on the organic side, really showing off our brand, not necessarily us too. I mean, I've always said, a school can be a little narcissistic and promote themselves. And we really made an effort to promote our students, our outcomes, where they're working, those type of things. So we've had really good success on the organic side. We went away from broadcast, went away from radio and TV, made a conscious effort to do that. And we're trying more branding areas, doing a little Twitch, trying a little OTT. We are getting into some pretty cool AR stuff. We built 2 games and we're using those in our nurturing campaigns. If you remember the old Orbit ads where you lose about an hour productivity because you're trying to throw snowballs at someone, and every third win you get an ad of an Orbit. So we kind of took that and put it on steroids, and we've been using that, and we've seen a little spike in our conversions from inquired application by engaging them and kind of showing them who we are, and it's not just about the school type thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then as folks are coming in and shopping different programs, are you seeing, and I know you're mostly trade-based, different trades programs, seeing different levels of demand? Are you guys seeing certain growth in certain areas, or has it stayed pretty true to what it's been?
I mean, trade is just hit really hard. It seems like a buzzword right now. A lot of people are talking about it, which has helped us. Your best marketing is your competitor kind of thing. But the traditional HVAC, welding, those type of things are just not quitting. We've done a really good job, and this happened even before I got here, of partnering with companies and partnering with those places that are hiring them. So it is a bit of a turnkey feel when people come in, because they get that feeling of what they're going to be doing is what they're going to be doing in the workforce type thing. As far as the aviation mechanics side, I mean, we're one of the largest. I mean, I would say we're the largest, but I'm not positive on that. You just never know, type thing. But I mean, we got 14 schools out there, and last count, we were employing 23% of that workforce that are out there working on the planes, either through a contractor that's working with a major airline or through some small regional airlines. So we've been really fortunate. Luck is always part of it. Timing is part of it. But trades, it's time. I think people realize that, just getting a liberal arts degree like I have is just not cutting it. And I think parents are gravitating to the fact that, hey, blue collar work, there's nothing to be ashamed of. There is bragging rights in that type of career choice, and there's a lot of benefits to be had. So luckily, we've just been in the right place, right time, and we've opened up schools where there's need. We don't just open up schools based on certain research or studies. We're looking at the employers and making sure we're opening up. There is that need for those individuals that are graduating, getting out there.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I'd love to hear a little more about that. As you try and triangulate a location, one thing at trade school I think you've got different levels of demand coming from different places, right? You've got employers, but employer demand does not necessarily mean there's going to be student demand, right? You've got to be the connective tissue there to make that work. So as you look at student demand, employer demand, talk a little bit about, and you mentioned it earlier too, almost as the best practice, how you're connecting employers. I think that's such a missed opportunity for so many schools. As you know, Charlie, students aren't always coming to a school. They're really coming for a job, and you are the service provider to help them. You need to be a trusted, but you're a partner. All right. So talk to me about how you guys are sewing together that connective tissues.
Yeah, man. I mean, we talk about, like, if you look at a long string, I tell the guys all the time, you look at a long string and tie a knot in it. That's the amount of time that kid's going to be in school. You got all that stuff in front of them, and then you got all this stuff after that knot. And employers are that space after that knot. So we really rely on a lot of political awareness, a lot of local government awareness. We get out there and press the flesh, as you call it, and shake hands and meet with them. We tour them in the schools. It sounds kind of I guess, superficial in a way, like, oh yeah, we do that too. But for whatever reason, it's at the heart of everything. Whenever we do a grand opening, those guys are the first to be there. Their banners are all over our schools. I mean, when you walk into a school, you're not necessarily going, this is an AIM school. You're seeing AIM, you're seeing Piedmont, you're seeing United, you're seeing, all those players that are involved in that process. And again, if you look at the demographic of the people that are retirement age and the gap that's happening, we're falling in that kind of phase right now, and we've positioned ourselves, I feel, very well. So you're right, it's not just employability, because like our Centura schools, we actually look for locations that are a little bit less population, and we find that it works out better for us in that smaller trade group. But when you're looking at aviation, maintenance, and you look at some of the major cities, it's hard to be affordable for them to either go to school there or attend school there. So you look at those kind of geography areas that are maybe a little bit outside of that the employer can reap that benefit from moving or relocation and things like that. So it's really a conscious effort, man. It's not really a, something that you just talk about. I mean, every time we visit the school, the first thing we do, man, is drive around. We've got Amazon facilities by every one of our schools pretty much. And that's just yeah, who is that? That's right. I just bought a toothbrush.
I've never heard of him.
But you figure if they're a box throw at FedEx, if there's those type of individuals, or they're schlepping some things, that's our perfect persona for them to take the next step in their career opportunity. And it fits right in with what they're used to doing, if that, get what I'm saying.
Do you, let me just jump in real fast, Jason, and ask just a follow up to what you were saying. Does a student have more I don't know, negotiating power than they have before because there's such a need for trade programs? Is the placement and the opportunity to earn higher for them on the supply and demand wise?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both, right? Skill set is sought after. I mean, what's that old adage of the guy that, charges the dude X number of dollars for 2 seconds of work, and it wasn't necessarily paying for that 2 seconds of work, but it was a knowledge of where to hit that nail to make sure it's the most efficient possible for the outcomes that person that's paying for that job is. And I think these guys understand that. And, one of the secrets to any success in a trade group is they're not in classrooms. I mean, they're out there in the office. And one of the things we try to do when we tour students is we want them out there smelling the oil, hearing the banging, really out there with their peer group and watch them do some things. I think the old school of putting them in a PowerPoint presentation and, 4 white walls, that's not what that guy needs. That guy needs to go out there and actually feel and see it. When you're recruiting in sports, man, I mean, it's the same thing. You're not necessarily showing the classroom, even that's a big part of that educational venture, but you're having them smell the turf, go in that locker room, look at the weight room. And so we've taken on that to show who we are in the best way possible. And that's exactly what they'll be doing.
Talk about, let's do a little bit of an origin story. Charlie, you've got, obviously you have enrollment and marketing superpowers. How did you enter higher education? Give me the 2-minute overview of your superhero story that's led you to have these enrollment and marketing superpowers.
Well, first, you're boosting my ego, Joel. So thank you. Thank you very much.
That's what I do here at the EdUp Experience, except for Jason. I'm not
yeah,
gonna,
well, Jason's the overlord. There's
nothing.
That's
right. That's
a
right.
mic drop moment right there, right?
All right.
Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie.
I got into it kind of by a fluke. I was working at Dean Witter, and at that time, if you're familiar with MCSE, the Microsoft certification that was happening in the late 90s, mid 90s, late 90s, CNE, if you still remember Novell, Lotus Notes, and things like that. Well, schools were popping up, and they were
Why
doing.
Are you aging of us all as you talk about yourself here?
That's right.
I have no idea what he's talking about.
Jason's 21.
There you go. That's right. So that's how I got into it. A guy called me and said, "You know what? You're crummy at the accounting side. You're better with people." And I started looking at the certification work and jumped right into it. It was with Icon Educational Services. That was my first job. It wasn't just the Xerox people. They had a couple schools out in the Phoenix area, and they were doing the MCSE program. So I jumped in, and then I met an individual who had a pretty good 401k, and there was a company called Vitrex in Ogden, Utah, who was going bankrupt. And we bought 10 computers, took everything we thought we knew from the employers we were with, and started our own school. ran it for a year, and we did $1 million in our first 12 months. If you're familiar with iOmega, that may age you a little bit. They were the first storage suppliers with computers and items like that. iOmega was our first major contract, and they outsourced their training department to us with Microsoft Word, Excel, and then we did the Exchange and some of their network training for their internal AT group. And then Kimberly Clark, who's your tissue people, they jumped on board. And then we had Autoleave, which our final big business that jumped on board, which does the airbags. And that kind of launched me. And we didn't have enough capital at the time. And we needed to, grow, so to speak. I mean, I remember the day, man, I was selling MCSE classes on eBay. And people were buying them on eBay, flying out to Ogden, Utah, of all places, and doing boot camps back in the day. And we started renting classrooms from Phoenix, University of Phoenix. And I met some people over there. I was fortunate enough and young. And I was like, look, man, to my partner, I said, I'm out. This is more money I've ever seen, and I'm out. And it's not like an ego thing with money. It was just timing and luck, man. And that launched me into education. So I went to University of Phoenix after I sold to my partner. And he ran it for another 10 years and then went to Microsoft. And since then, I've never looked back. The University of Phoenix was at EDMC for a while, and then went the private equity route and joined some schools as an operator for them. And it's been just a freaking great ride, just a great ride.
That's great. The MCSE example is interesting because I don't think we've seen any one individual program like that have that level of intense demand since, right? It's so fragmented now in different areas, but man, back in the day, people were renting rooms wherever they could, teaching whenever they could, because it was just unlimited demand for that. My brother actually used to teach. He got all the smarts in the family. They don't let me near a classroom, but he used to teach MCSE, and I mean, it was just as much as you could teach, as often as you could teach, wherever you could find a room, you'd have students. It was amazing.
It was great, man. And it was Sally Mae, it was cash pay. We weren't using Title IV. We weren't Title IV eligible. 9-12-month programs. It was really good at the time. Until I got to Phoenix, though, I realized what I didn't know. I mean, I wish I knew the stuff that I learned, when I got to University of Phoenix, or we would have probably even done a much better, but we made a lot of decisions because we just didn't know. But by trade, I've always been on that front end, more of a business developer, more, meeting the customers, especially the businesses. And if I can share a quick story, it's a funny story. iOmega, I remember the day we were 3 months running, man, and we were running out of cash flow. We didn't have any operating money. It was I think it was like November, late October. iOmega calls us up and said, hey, we got a chunk of money. We have to use it or we lose it. Is there any way possible that we can pay you now and give us some sort of punch pass so people could come over and maybe do Word, Excel, the certification, MCF or CNE? And it's one of those moments, man, where you put the phone down for a second just to act like you're composed and you're going, you just saved my life. Yeah. So.
LeadSquared isn't only an enrollment CRM. It's a technology that will allow you to optimize your entire front-end student lifecycle by providing decision makers with real-time customizable dashboards. Forecasting, measuring, and optimizing for key activities will increase retention and revenue, and LeadSquared will lower technology costs simultaneously. Not only can LeadSquared align with existing admissions processes, but the technology will also help you innovate beyond what you thought was possible. The ability to access data on your phone will keep you connected, and when you add in the world-class customer service, LeadSquared transcends being a technology. It's an experience. Check them out at leadsquared.com. Thanks, Charlie, for giving us that awesome origin story and dating us as we talk about all the technologies that don't exist anymore. So thank you for that. So you get in with, which the interesting part is you get in with the University of Phoenix. And of course, one of my frequent guest co-hosts is Bill Pepicello. Dr. Bill Pepicello used to be a former president of the University of Phoenix when they were like at 500,000 students. He's awesome. And University of Phoenix was the door opener for so many people into higher education, and they still are with it today. And for all intents and purposes, they did a lot of things right, University of Phoenix, or you would have never had 500,000 students, 500,000 students. Where was the passion? Where did it come from? Was it the students? Was it the systems? Was it the coordination of systems? What got you? What was the hook?
Man, that's a great question. I would say the first hook for me was it was natural. I mean, for whatever reason, I was lucky to fall into it, and that at that time it just met my innate kind of abilities. It really did. So that was a big hook, and I got to tell you, there's another name out there, Bill Brebaugh. I don't know if you guys know him or remember him, who still sends me a freaking birthday card every year.
Amazing.
What's that?
That's amazing. Yeah, Bill's great.
It is. I mean, it's just amazing. And he personalized it. It's not one of those like, hey, I subscribe to something. What's that?
Amazing.
Yeah. But he was the next hook, man. He's a natural cheerleader, but you know, he showed the passion for the job and the enthusiasm for the job. And at that time, that's one of probably the main ingredients. He had a thing, skills, activity, attitude, that he used all the time. And those adjectives really defined what it took to be successful in that kind of front end door. And I'll tell you, man, just as far as marketing goes, which really only happened for me probably the last 10 years or probably maybe even 8 years, is I feel like I'm good at marketing because I know what I don't want to call. And my experience as a director of admissions and working that side of the house really taught me a lot about what I want to spend money on to bring in inquiry wise or how to target wise. I feel like that was a very fortunate time in my life on what I learned from Phoenix, and some things learned not to do too. It wasn't all rosy there. I mean, I definitely did have some takeaways that I didn't adopt as I went forward. But man, my innate and Bill Brebaugh was the absolute hook for me when I was there.
Over to you, Jason.
Yeah, Bill's great. And Joe, a bit of I've got to add this here, a bit of EdUp experience, guest host trivia. You've now had 2 guest hosts who are honorary admirals in the great Navy of the state of Nebraska. Both Dr. Pepicello and I were honored by Governor Dave Heineman and bequeathed the honor of honorary admiral in the Nebraska State Navy. So
how do you like that?
I mean, a little EdUp trivia for us here, right? So
love it.
Awesome. So Charlie, talk to me about like today's student. You know, you've obviously seen a lot through the years. How's that student changed? What are they looking for on campus? What services are they consuming? You know, who are they?
Authentic, man. It's the first word that comes to mind. They want an authentic experience, and that goes from the first time they meet you to the time they walk out the door into their career. And that includes, like, you know, landing pages, websites, all the things that you're doing. It's that authentic nature. It's almost a little more branding, if you will, than always putting a CTA on everything too. It's kind of that I feel like that educated consumer, even on the trade side, which arguably, you know, the Jerry Springer days are gone, man. I just remember, hey, you run that commercial, I'm gonna sit there right by the phone because the phone's just gonna go crazy.
It was an automatic lead generator.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So now they're just more sophisticated, and they can see through, you know, we don't use scripts here. I'm not a big believer in scripts. I've always said, you know, as long as you're honest, ethical, and don't put the company in danger, you'll never do any wrong. You're talking to another human. So you have to be genuine and realistic with them. They may have a gap and a need. And as a human, just like you talk to your best friend, that's how you should conduct yourself. So as far as our, you know, strategy, if you will, that's what we try to do. And authentic, we try to resonate in all our visuals, or all of our copy is in that manner. So I do feel like that's changed along the way, which is a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. A bit of a different question, but you guys are growing, which again, congratulations, not easy to do. Working with very authentic students. Talk to me about your staff. What are you looking for when you hire? Who's helping you with that growth? Talk to me a little bit about that part of the journey.
Yeah, man. So we've got a full service agency internal. I got a production staff, I got a creative staff, and I have an organic staff, so to speak, that handles all the social. So we do have a full service agency in here. It's 9 people. And to be quite frank, I hire people that match the demo that's walking in our schools. Those individuals speak the language. I'm a big proponent of using the lingo, so to speak. You know, I'm X number of years old. You can do the math with MCSE, but I don't speak that demo, right? That's not me. So I wanted to make
TikTok doing dances.
Well, I can do a dance, but it's not TikTok worthy for sure. So in the hiring structure, I do look at that type of makeup. I want to mirror what's walking in our schools and that type of thing. As far as the admission side, I really don't even look at resumes, and I talk to DOAs about that all the time. I usually look at their innate abilities. Is that someone that I would have a beer with? Is that someone that I would want to hang out with? And from that experience, I feel like we can teach them the rest of the skills, because I don't want a salesperson. I don't want someone that's gonna necessarily persuade on the verge of manipulation. I want someone just to be an advocate for them and humanize that approach. So in the hiring thing, man, it's all innate for me on the admissions side, particularly on the marketing side. I like the young people. Most of our staff, they're probably within 3 years out of school. So they're fast burners. They want to prove themselves. They know what's, resonating, and it shows in our organic work, how we showcase our people. So that's kind of the hiring strategy we've chosen, and we're going to kind of stick by it until we see something different.
If I could, I just wanted to say one thing too. It's a really important in the takeaway, because we're talking to an audience, and this audience that we have at EdUp spans models: for-profit, nonprofit, public, private, so on. And this is not 2000 in the early to mid 2000s, where there were some bad actors in for-profit and trade school education. This is a new world, and there are many great actors out there. And Charlie, you did a great job of summarizing what I think it dispels one of the assumptions that people make when they look at trade school education, for-profit schools, so on and so on, is, oh, they're just hiring salespeople. They're going to shove this education down your throat and leave you, we're going to convince a student and fleece them. That is not what happens anymore. This is about finding fit. And the fact of the matter is that a traditional higher education is not necessarily a fit for every single person. There are adult students, there are quote unquote traditional students that are just looking to get into a career sooner than later. And schools like you have, Charlie, can provide that service in the most organic, above board way.
Yep.
So I just want to put that there, Jason.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, just one more question for me, Joe. Charlie, talk to me about the next 5 years or 3 years. Obviously there's a lot going on in the space, regulatory noise, competition springs up daily. There's been a lot of change in trades. How are you guys thinking about and positioning for your future as an institution or set of institutions?
Yeah, I mean, being aware of it for one, being conscious of it. We pride ourselves on, like I told you, working with the employers and partners in those type of situations. We've got a couple of programs going right now on our automotive side and on our aviation side, where the employer is actually paying for individuals to go to school because they know they have a need. They know how we educate. And so I would think over the next 5 years, we're going to, continue that progression. And the marketing side, I hate to say it, and this is no offense to Mitch or anybody, because I love them to death, but I don't want to be an agency dependent type institution. I really want to move towards the organic side, the referral side. We've got one of our schools in New Jersey. I spend $1, and that's for dramatic reasons. I don't spend anything really. So we'll say $1. And those guys are continually having growth there. And it's like a fraternal order. They're all wearing the t-shirts. They have these certain color hats when they pass certain certifications along the way. And I feel like over the next 5 years, that's who we are, and we need to become. We need to be a destination location. We're another alternative for the community, like a community college, to help foster that economic development in that job security prowess. And you guys know it best, being in the space. I mean, we're promoting generational change. A lot of these individuals, because of limited choice they feel they had, they see other ways they can do things, and it fosters that generational change that they didn't know they could do. So really, in the next 5 years, I want to move in that direction and move into that more of supplying a community with a need that they have and being that supplier for it through the means that make us successful, which means the companies, the individuals in that city are dependent on us. So.
Well, I've got three last questions because Jason kind of took my future of higher education, but I'll ask you to just elaborate on anything else that you want. I love my guest co-host that ask my questions for me, Jason. We'll talk about that later. So, Charlie, one of the questions that we like to ask, let's call it a curveball question. It could be higher related, could not be. I'm going to ask you now. You ready?
Prepared.
For no money. I just have to make that clarification. But it sounds like there could be a prize at the end of this, but there is not, unfortunately. Give me your entrance music, Charlie. What's that song that plays when you get on stage at commencement? When you walk into the room with your staff, maybe you play a song, maybe you don't. When you walk into your living room before the football game, what's your entrance song and why?
So, so you're gonna think this is funny, but I have a tendency, and it's gonna age me again. I rickroll people all the time still. If you guys understand what I'm saying, and if you want to cue that up, if you got time for it, but I have a tendency to lighten things up when we're shooting data out and things like that. So I would say my entrance music would be rickrolling myself as I walk right into a room.
I like it. I like the lightening things up because we have very serious work that we do, right?
Absolutely.
We got to have fun.
Yep.
So the final two questions, Charlie, here you go. Number one, what did we miss about ESI, the umbrella company, or all of the colleges that you service? Anything that you wanted to say, an event, website, plug, speaking thing you're doing, anything at all. That's your chance to plug anything.
No, I just love doing it. I love you guys listening. We're just another group of people trying to do the best we can with the community at large. I mean, that's the long and short of it. We're in education, you know, we're not narrow-minded and think we're tied to one sort of program. We're always looking at different things we're looking at, the green energy right now. We've got a wind turbine program that we've launched in conjunction with the state of Virginia and some other partner players within that. So we consider ourselves very entrepreneurial. Still, we're very nimble. Even with 20 schools, we can kind of address some things. The other thing to know, man, is all our schools are autonomous. We have some great leaders at our schools as directors of them, and they treat those schools like they're their own LLC, their own business. And it's really done well. We don't get in their way. They're our clients, if you will. And we're just here to serve them, be an extra set of eyes for them. And like I say, there's nothing more important than get out of a great person's way. And one thing I know is I'm not the smartest one, so I try to make sure I'm surrounded by a lot of smart people. So I feel like I've done that in a very short amount of time. I am going to do a plug for a school group that I was with before this that really has launched me into the data side of it. And that's EDMC by way of South University. I will tell you, working with John South in that group over there is everything, basically everything I do today as far as data analytics and understanding it and creating that narrative from the data, I learned from South University. So I will tell you, I am someone that just doesn't come up with something new. I just steal from everybody else and try to just make it a Charlieism. And John South and his crew just created something in me that has just been just a return on investment since the time I was with them.
Love that. And then what do you see, Charlie, as the future of higher education? Give us the blue sky.
Man, continuing, man. I think, you just said it right. We're all players in this. And I think you're seeing that now, whether you're a for-profit, nonprofit, certificate program, all those different programs. There's a place for all of us. And I think we're starting to realize that. And I think our front door, which is our admissions group or our forward-facing people, I think we're all starting to really grasp a hold of that every person that walks in your door is not the best person for your school, but it may be the best person for someone down the road. And I think we're evolving to that we're all here for the same thing. It's kind of like agencies right now, the agencies compete for each other on the marketing side. And I love to get your guys' thought on this, but there's so much business out there that we don't need to think that we're the latest and greatest, that there's just so much opportunity for us all to work together in something that we love and are passionate about. And as soon as we keep, not as soon, but as we keep moving towards that direction, we can cater this population that is kind of out of tune with us, man. I mean, they're kind of, all this, free education, all the buyback on their loans, and then feeling like their college degree didn't get them anywhere. I mean, we need to change that narrative and show the choices that are out there based on that person's, I guess, characteristics for outcomes.
Yeah,
Hope you
that's
know
well
what I'm
said.
saying. That makes sense.
I love that. Absolutely. Well, you've said it all, Charlie. You've said it all. And I want to make sure that I first thank today my guest co-host, Jason Paff. He's Overlord and also Vice President at Red Ventures. Jason, thanks for co-hosting with me.
Hey, Joe, thank you, man. It was a blast. Thank you. And congrats again on the book.
Thank you, sir.
Can't wait,
I appreciate it. I'll let you guys know as things become more real, and I have one in my hands, which of course I can't wait for. It's one of those things. And Charlie, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. My guest today, he is Charlie Parker. He is what is he? He is Vice President of Marketing Enrollment Operations at ESI, and he gets another standing ovation.
I love it, Joe.
As an outro.
And congratulations on your book. I'll be buying one, and we'll expect an autographed copy.
You guys will get it. Well, I hope you guys will connect because I think this is your first time meeting. So you guys got a lot to talk about, I think. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Another amazing episode of the EdUp Experience podcast. You've just EdUp'd. The Lead Squared integrated CRM functionality will put your institution at the front end of marketing and enrollment strategy by delivering a streamlined admissions process. Capture student interest, segment your audience, create student engagement workflows, and even integrate with your student information system to create longitudinal key performance metrics you've always wanted. You can do all of this and lower your technology costs. Check out leadsquared.com for more info.